Hello, this is the Ramblings of an Indisciplined Mind podcast for Wednesday, July 13th, 2016. As of this recording, Sierra is still missing. So, what I thought I'd talk about today is a couple of the new movies that I'm kind of looking forward to. One of them is Ghostbusters. Although it seems to be getting very mixed reviews. I read one review that was done in the Chicago Sun-Times that hated it. Said the effects were cartoonish. Thought that the script wasn't funny. Just thought it was really bad overall. But then I saw another review that thought it was great. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. If it's going to be good or not. Of course, if you hate the movie, then people automatically are judging you based upon the fact that, well, you just don't like women. You don't want women in those roles. It should be men's roles. And yeah, I don't know that that's the case. I do feel that the studio might be a bit worried because I've seen a couple of ads for it where they released footage of Bill Murray's and Dan Aykroyd's cameo appearances, which I don't think I knew that they were going to have cameo appearances. And I probably would have rather not known. I would have liked to have had that been a nice surprise when I saw the movie, rather than being told about it there. But I know a lot of times what's in the trailer is driven more by the studio than by the filmmaker. And so I kind of have a feeling that the studio's a little nervous, and so they probably felt they had to show their faces to increase the draw of the film. So I guess we'll see. on that. How that's going to be. And then the other one is Star Trek Beyond, which comes out next weekend, and we're going to be away on vacation next weekend, so we won't get to see it then. We'll probably have to wait a week to see that. It looks good. The first teaser trailer looked kind of weird. Look kind of like, because this guy has done more like fantastic, Fast and Furious kind of movies, and it kind of look like Fast and Furious in space. But they've added some more details. They got some interesting looking characters, and I enjoy the series, so we'll probably go see that one. But we'll have to wait a week on that and see how that looks as we get into the summer blockbuster season. I guess we're in the middle of the summer blockbuster season. But those are the two movies that I know are coming that I'm looking forward to seeing in the near future. I did read articles about what they're doing with Sulu. And in case you haven't heard, they're going to show in Star Trek Beyond, they're going to show Sulu as being a gay man. Boy, it couldn't be a gay woman. As being gay. And what's I've found really interesting about this is that they're kind of doing it as a homage to George Takei, who of course played Sulu in the original cast series and movies. And they had talked to him about it, and he was against the idea, which is interesting because he's gay himself. And the reason why was that he had a conversation with Roddenberry back when they were doing the original series, and while he wasn't out himself, some other topic came up about Sulu being gay or whatever. And at the time, Roddenberry felt they'd just done the ratings were down, and they were right about the time of the interracial kiss, and between Kirk and Uhura, and Roddenberry didn't feel like they could really push the envelope that much more than they already had. And and Roddenberry had always seen the character as straight anyway. And so George didn't like the idea of making this Sulu gay because of that conversation, and because he knows that it was always Gene's conception that he was straight, and he wanted to be true to that character. He felt that they should be true to Sulu the way Roddenberry envisioned Sulu. And I gotta say that really impressed me, because he's obviously he's gay, and he's obviously a champion for that lifestyle. But he impressed me that he would put his personal agenda aside to say, look, I don't think this is how the character should be interpreted, based on my experience with the creator of said character. Now, what's happened is so he relayed that to them, and they kind of went away, and he actually encouraged them to pick some new character and make them gay, and do it that way. If you want to do an homage to me, don't do it with Sulu. Well, they came back, time happened later, and he finds out that no, they're indeed going to make Sulu gay, and so he had an interview where this got brought up, and then that's how we learned about all this. And then Simon Pegg, who's the guy that plays Scotty, who's also the guy that wrote the screenplay, talked about it, and said the reason why they didn't want to do a new character was because there wasn't any real way to establish that character as anything real, really, in the movie, unless that character would simply be known as the gay character, and they didn't want to just put a gay character just for the sake of having a gay character in there. They wanted somebody that the audience already knew and had a relationship with, and kind of present it as, look, this is another aspect of this character that you didn't know about. And from a story perspective, I can understand what he's saying. You don't want to put up, insert some new character that's got limited purpose, and establish that he's gay, and really all you're doing there is you're just putting a little cardboard cutout there that is gay. I can understand that from a story perspective. I guess it's interesting that they felt that it was important enough that they had to do it, even with the person that they are essentially doing it in honor of doesn't want them to do it. They felt that they had to do it. The third choice would have been we don't do it at all, but apparently this was just a minor subtext that they wanted in this movie for some reason. So from what I've read, it's just a really dinky scene where you visit Sulu in his home, and Sulu and Sulu's partner, who of course is male, and they've got a kid, and to my understanding that's the extent of it. So it's not like it's Sulu and his gay adventures all through the whole movie. But it was an interesting study in character and story, and with opposing views. So I found that fascinating, if you'll pardon the pun, to read. So yeah, I guess that's what I was thinking about today. But I will let that be that. I will be back tomorrow. I'll be talking to you then. So, be seeing you.